Welcome to another episode of Simon Says, where facts come first. I'm your host, Jenny Simon. Today we have a number of little things I would like to touch on. You know how the time goes, but hopefully we get to touch on everything today. First, I'm gonna give you an update as to where we are with the RGPF and the three young men who escaped while in custody of the police of the St. George South Station. Let's speak about what we know right now. Questions the commissioner and the ACP Cohen and Commissioner McKenzie dodged and ducked from, because the truth is, some of these questions I don't believe they couldn't answer it. They were hiding, right? So I'm gonna answer a couple of those for you today, and of course we're 11 days gone since the incident, or actually since the press conference, and we have not had an update from the RGPF as to what's going on. We have not had any sort of message, any sort of pronouncement, any sort of utterances from the powers that be, and the Prime Minister and Minister of National Security himself, nor any member of his cabinet. It's like rat went with their tongue. It's quiet, not a whisper, not a slip of the tongue. It's almost 20 days now since the three young men escaped from the custody of the RGPF, landed up in St. Vincent using the yacht of two American sailors. And up till now, these two persons, American citizens, are missing and are presumed dead. The Prime Minister did, in fact, make a statement at the CARICOM conference, where he left actually the Wednesday after the guys broke cell on the Sunday. He left the Wednesday to attend the CARICOM conference in Guyana from the Thursday. He said nothing before he left. He said nothing to us while he was there, and he said nothing to us since he'd been back. But at the conference, he made a statement, and so I'm going to play for you now a snippet of what he said there.
Regrettably, we have to treat with a more sobering topic, and that of crime, violence, and public safety. It is a matter of fundamental importance to CARICOM. It affects, in varying terrible degrees, each of our islands, countries, and as CARICOM heads, we are deeply engaged on this matter. We want to reiterate that crime, public safety, violence is not a matter for governments only, not a matter for CARICOM heads only. It is a matter that should engage all of society, all of the region, because we have some per capita alarming statistics. Per capita homicides, killing of our people, particularly young people, something that we cannot be proud of in marking the 50th anniversary of CARICOM. And so we recognize the profound importance of public safety. We appreciate, despite all of the hard work, whether it's on free movement of people, the greater economic cooperation, the work on the capital markets, the risk we face from climate change, and our efforts to address this. the dynamism of our culture, our sports, men and women, that all of this could be undone if we do not address this tide of crime and violence. And so you recall that in April 17th and 18th of 2023, heads gathered in Trinidad and Tobago to address the issue of crime and violence as a public health safety issue. We are often ready to accept that health issues, whether it's a pandemic, whether it's an epidemic, whether it's the challenge of non-communicable diseases that is rampant throughout the region, all public health issues. But in a sense, the loss of a life through violence, loss of a limb through violence, scourge that drug addiction, alcohol abuse, and the antisocial behavior that oftentimes is fueled by this, the gun trafficking, the deaths by gun violence, are essentially all matters of health. And so the heads in April met and would have issued a declaration of the various wide-ranging issues that we need to address. And at this meeting, heads met in deep caucus. Conversation on this issue was long, was profound, and it was all-encompassing. We certainly want to, again, recommend that for the media who are here, and for those who are not here, and for all of us within the community, that we go back and look at the declaration made in Port of Spain on the 17th and 18th of April, 2023. And we assure our citizens that we are committed to the principles enunciated in that declaration and to implementing them.
Picking words. Now, crime, public safety, and violence is not a matter for government only. It's not a matter for governments only. It's not a matter for CARICOM heads only. It's a matter for all of society. So we're supposed to take the law into our own hands, right? If a man come and he steal, and any citizen could just hold him and cut out his hand for stealing. I mean, where is the guidance? Create the guidance for us to come on board, even if, right? What have you put in place, Prime Minister, for the rest of us to come on board, to join in, to help with national security? What have you said? You've gone in Guyana, you say all these things to the people there, to the heads there. You never told us about what happened in Trinidad and what you all said and what was the plan in Trinidad. You reminding the heads about the plan. When are you going to involve us as a nation? When are you going to speak to us? You have to lead, and we will follow. That's what being a prime minister, that's what being a minister of national security is about. Somebody has to lead. And if you can't do it and you're not prepared to do it, then step aside. Simple. Step aside. But we also know that you don't think you need to do nothing because you're not responsible for the crime. You knew it was coming. You saw it coming. But what? Let's hear what you said. Let's hear what you said. I don't have to try and remember what you said.
From the time I've been in office, I've been saying this. Not because I have premonition, Mr. Speaker, because it is clear, the trend is obvious. Anybody who's reading the statistics on crime in the Caribbean will see that gun crime is a pandemic in the region. And that it was just going to be a matter of time before it reached our shores. That has nothing to do with the Prime Minister who holds the position of Minister of National Security.
Story done. And I guess that could we could understand why you're not talking to us, why you just not saying anything to the nation, why you have not come out and apologize to the family of the two sailors who is missing still and presumed dead. So nothing to do with you. On further investigation, here is what we learned, and we now know about the escape and the RGPF and the incompetence where that was concerned. That the guys were held in the defective cell for 4 days before they escaped. A cell that several persons, is reported that several persons had escaped from before. We learned that the officers had only 5 weeks training. Yes, 5 weeks training. Previously, before this administration and before the mass exodus of officers from the force, which resulted in, of course, manpower issues, the training or testing, so to speak, took at least 6 months. 6 months training. I think it's reduced to 3 months now, but apparently there's a system where they send them out after 5 weeks, they send them out, and then they would bring them back in for further training. Now, when they go out, they supposed to be supervised and mentored, and then they would go back and continue. I was reliably informed. Okay. Now, these officers, I was told, worked as trainees. So they're trainees, but they were on the job, right? And as my source said to me, if they want this to work, this system, because of course they're in demand. Officers are in demand because, as I said earlier, there's a mass exodus from the force since June 23, 2022. They must, and the word must was used, be closely supervised and monitored. But apparently, because again of the short staff, because of the low manpower, the manpower shortage, they were forced to work alone. And they were working as normal officers on the evening and the 4-day morning, as we say, when the 3 fugitives escaped, right? In my opinion, it's like giving my grandson a gun to keep security for me in the night while I go and sleep. You know, he manned the doors and with a loaded gun. According to the officer, more of this will happen if things don't turn around quickly. He said the officers are coming out of training not being and I'm quoting here, psychologically prepared to deal with the dynamic nature of law enforcement, but they are just not ready for that. In other words, they have not had the training, enough training, the training they should have the time allotted for them to come out there as officers, as police officers. It's reduced tremendously. 5 weeks. I've been told 5 weeks. He said no matter how much protocols are in place, their minds won't and is not able to deal with that type of work, that heavy work that they have put on them. The force is riddled with low manpower issues. The South St. George Police Station, I found out, has at least 40 police officers assigned to that station. 11 were out sick and 7 was on vacation when this event happened, when this incident took place. And if you clearly remember, the commissioner, Mackenzie, said that the supervisor on the job that night was due to go on leave, the one that they transferred instead of suspending. He was due to go on leave the following day, Monday the 19th, and they since revoked that. So, as I understand it, the sick, a lot of police officers call in sick. Not sure if they're sick, but you can't tell a man he ain't sick when he say he's sick. But a lot of sick outs and persons taking their vacation that they probably had piled up there for a while, and others are just resigning and retiring from the force. We now know that the St. Vincent Court ordered that the Grenadian murder suspects be deported back to Grenada. Also, a magistrate in St. Vincent and the Grenadines on Monday, the 4th of March, ordered that the 3 Grenadians fugitives who were suspected of murdering the 2 American sailors after escaping from the police custody in Grenada be repatriated. We also know that the 3 are now on island and in police custody, in the custody of the RGPF again. Only thing we will get a press conference on Monday from Mackenzie and Cohen. Are you looking forward to a press conference from the RGPF? We await an update now that they have spoken to the Vincentian police officers. I am presuming they must have something more to tell us, what they were told. Maybe not all of it, but some of it they can update the nation on. In the meantime, the murder accused, who according to Acting Commissioner Cohen, pushed his way past the police and escaped custody, is still on the run. And it's a bit concerning because with low manpower and a fugitive on the run, a criminal on the run, a murderer on the run, and in a couple of weeks, with us having over 700 athletes coming to Grenada at their teams, over 700. And that's not the visitors, the supporters, the family and friends who come to support them. We're talking over 700 athletes and their team, of course. Coming to Grenada, do we have the manpower to safely secure these people? Which it's going to be in our hands to do so. It's a bit concerning for me because in the circular number 5 that I read out to you last episode, in January, well, from January 22nd to February 10th alone, 3 weeks, 12 officers and officers with ranks, 12 officers retired on the grounds of maximum services, which is early retirement. Only 2 retired by age. 12, and that is in 3 weeks. And I'm trying to get the data for the last 18 months or so of the total amount of officers that has retired, early retirement, or resigned from the RGPF. This is not looking good for our people, for our visitors. It is not at all looking good. And we have a mute Prime Minister and Minister of National Security who leaving us to fend on our own. As he said, citizens has it's on us as well. So I guess we have to start taking things into our own hands because we don't have any guidance. Folks, I'll take a quick break and come right back and get into the meat of the matter for today.
Thank you for tuning in to Simon Says. To ensure that you never miss an episode, click subscribe and make sure to turn on the notifications by clicking on the notification bell icon. See you at the next episode.
Welcome back. You know, from time I've been speaking about the nepotism and the blatant eat of food mentality of this NDC administration. It's there, it's clear, it's there for all of us to see. They don't hide. They may just make a point of doing it, of eating all the food for themselves, their friends, and their family. The statutory boards have been a vehicle to accommodate such eat of food mentality. Even the 50th anniversary celebration was like a family affair. Still have the ordinary man trying to get paid for their services. But the big boys and gals, they don't eat, back up their money. I would say eat the food, they back up their money and bank it, I guess. The directors of some of the boards are hidden from us. We have not seen gazetted as yet the Grenada Development Bank. Now, some of these boards are almost they reach their point where the first contracts are up, right? And we have not seen them gazetted as yet. This government is not law abiding. That's something we already have noticed as well. The Grenada Development Bank, the Stadium Authority, the Spice Mass Corporation, GAFIN, which is the Grenada Authority for the Regulations of Financial Institutions, GAFIN. We are yet to see who the directors are on some of these boards, right? Now, finally, gazetted in the 1st of March Gazette, just a few months before its tenure is up, we noticed the appointment they put out, the Grenada National Museum. It was gazetted, the board, the directors. So we have your notice of appointment. Cabinet approved the appointment of the board of directors to the Grenada National Museum for a period of 2 years with effect from October 1st, 2022 as follows. So October 1st, 2022, and it's just gazetted March 1st, 2024. Nevertheless, the directors are Ms. Shireen Francis Hackett, the chairperson, Mr. Carlton Peter Antoine, that's deputy chairperson, a familiar name for that name and on other boards, Mr. Aquino Romain. Now, the Romains has become an extended family to all of us, right? They're in our living rooms regularly. And Aquino Romain is the brother, of course, of Mr. Orlando Romain. That's the biggest shot in the whole thing. Sometimes I think he's a bigger shot than the Honorable Prime Minister. Now, to continue, Ms. K. Julian Gutu, Mr. Brian Bullen, Ms. Suzanne Jones Benjamin, representing from the Department of Culture. Then there's a representative from Grenada National Trust. We don't know who that is. A representative from the Grenada Cultural Foundation. We don't know who that is. I'm wondering if that is Mr. Chris D. Riggs. Another very, very familiar name for us these days, the name, B.D. Riggs, executive director appointed by the board, an executive director appointed by the board. That's what we get. Number 7, notice appointment. Notice of appointment, Cabinet approved the appointment of Dr. Oliver Benoit as chairman of the board of directors of the Grenada National Museum to replace Ms. Shireen Francis Hackett, who was appointed as chairperson on October 2022 and who subsequently tendered a resignation with effect from December 2028. So Dr. Oliver Benoit, the brother of Julie Benoit, was appointed chairman of the museum board. Now, this is synonymous to several boards, this resignation. We have had lots of and loads of resignation throughout almost all of the boards. We have not been told, it has not been published, and we have not been told who the new directors are. Take, for instance, the Cannabis Commission. I mean, from what I understand, almost all of the directors resigned before their term came to end. That happened recently. We were not updated. We were not told if there's a new commission and who they are. But we're hearing through the grapevine that they're about to go to Parliament to pass legislation to decriminalize and to legalize cannabis, aka marijuana. Word is that the rights to whatever that is, because there were no consultation held with the people on this legalization of marijuana. That rights of it was sold to some Trinidad people. So we're asking the Cabinet of Grenada, is this true? And to give us an update, please, on the Cannabis Commission. And while I'm at it, I've been reliably informed that Mr. William Thompson, former COP, who is now the advisor to the Prime Minister on security, so he is the head of national security, in other words, a failed, I should say, national security. That he's going to be the chairman of GAFID, Grenada Authority for the Regulations of Financial Institutions. That Mr. William Thompson is, as a matter of fact, the chairman of GAFID. Is who you know and which circle you're in, I guess. Marriage? According to them, St. Lucian's Hour. They no married there. Well, the NDC Cabinet Bank, that's the development bank, you know that's the Cabinet Bank, right? The NDC Cabinet Bank seems to be having a little difficulty in giving money to their members without it being exposed, without us telling you that yet another one has collected funds from the development bank, which is against the laws of the development bank. As a legislator, no member of your family should have access to funds from that bank. And so they decide they're going to turn this thing into a commercial bank. In an article dated the 4th of March 2024, Now Grenada by Ms. Linda Straker, and I am going to read a bit of that for you. It's crazy, right? We've had, 3 banks shut their doors, and the ones that left has downsized. As a matter of fact, only yesterday, I've seen an article that suggests the Republic Bank in in St. John is about to shut its doors. And this here reads, the Grenada Development Bank, GDB, may soon be able to issue shares and accept deposits from customers if the Cabinet of Ministers approves a recommendation to expand the functions of the bank, which became a body corporate of government in 1976. Now, what do y'all think they're going to do? Y'all think they're going to approve it or no? Because it's for them. It's for them to be able to dig into. So let's see what they say. Government is yet to issue a public statement or have a consultation. No, they don't consult. Forget it. On the recommendation, but the draft amendment of the GDB legislation has been submitted to Cabinet for approval. The Grenada Development Bank, GDB, completed a draft amendment bill to amend the GDB Act, Cap 129. The bill seems to expand the functions of the bank to authorize the bank to issue shares and accept certain types of deposits from customers, as well as strengthen its governance. The bill was submitted to Cabinet for its consideration, said the 2022 annual report of the Grenada Authority for Regulations of Financial Institutions, GARFIN, under the topic legislative review. I'll stop here. So we await what the Cabinet has to say on that matter. Now, as I am on the development bank, I have a question. What happened to the $300,000 the development bank gave Andy Williams under the MSME program, where the maximum amount is $300,000? It was given to him in December of 2022, just a mere 5 and some months, or more, let's say 6 months after coming into office. If you look on the screen, you'll see the letters from of acceptance of the loan given to Mr. Williams. And in fact, those monies was for small hoteliers, and there was also another fund for fisher folk. Is Mr. Williams a hotelier? Does he have a small hotel, or is he a fisher folk? Then again, the law was broken by the board by issuing this money to Mr. Williams. One, he's a legislator. Two, he is not a hotelier or a fisher folk. He got the monies. We don't know for what. I am assuming to pay off people he's owing or to help settle bounce checks. But we need an update as to what he did with the funds. Speaking to a small hotelier, I was told, they said they got some monies, it was not enough, and by the time they went back to get some more, they were told the money done. And that was in December of 2022. They were told, well, you see, this MSME program started under the new National Party administration when they were still in office. It was to help the hoteliers, the small hoteliers and the fisher folks and so, to get back on their feet after the COVID pandemic. And so by the time they went back to get some more, they were told it was finished. And they were told, if you had only come a week earlier, I'm assuming that they had then give it to Andy. They had then give it to Andy. The NDC board, chaired by the treasurer of the NDC, who is also, well, this is better we call her Ita Food, Miss Ita Food. Between she and Orlando, she is also the government ambassador, special envoy for development and investment, conflict of interest because she's also a CBI agent. So when she go away for the government to deal with development and investment, is it for the government and people of Grenada or is it for her agency? She's also, she was also in charge of the CES program. That is something we need to talk about probably next episode because we need to know where that set of money went as well, right? So she was also in charge of the CES program and is also on other, she's director on other boards. Ms. St. Bernard and her board gave Andy the people's money in the development bank. In March 2023, they consolidated the loans he had there before, because he had a loan there before from the New National Party as a business person, and that's okay, because he was a small business owner, and that's okay. So he got a loan there. He did not service the loan. He got the $300,000 from the MSME. Then they consolidated those loans and they gave him more monies, totaling it up to almost $3 million, which he's not servicing today. The collateral, one of which he gave, and that collateral been given since from the first loan with NNP, the same collateral for the $300,000, the same collateral for the consolidation and for the new monies. And the house sell, one of the houses sell. Did the development bank have that deed in their hands? How it is? And I keep asking, and I would ask until we get answers. How it is that house got sold? Since the coming of the new Minister of Youth and Sports, Senator Jonathan Lacrette, after the firing of Ron Redhead, I told you of a letter that was issued to the new minister from one of the advisors to Mr. Redhead, Mr. Ian Django Thomas, outlining his position and requesting continuance of him being advisor, collecting $5,000 a month for doing nothing, just more eat a food. And well, the new minister, Minister Lacrette, said he ain't want no advisors. So Ian Django Thomas is given a desk somewhere in the Ministry of Youth and still be paid. He is not the advisor. Advisor Patrick Simmons also was removed as advisor. The man said he ain't want no advisors. He good like that. And so Mr. Patrick Simmons is being put in charge of the sports policy of the, he's in charge, yes, of the sports policy. That's his new job, and he's still collecting lunch. When, look, when some of them belly full, they don't share, okay? This time, they ain't even share with locals. They shared with a foreigner. This one hired his colleague from university, a gentleman, Mr. George Skerritt from Montserrat, hired by the Ministry of Agriculture and Lands, Fisheries, whatever else, as Director of Land. His buddy, Mr. Philip Alexander, is advisor to that ministry. And if you look there, you'd see the contract, a 10-page document signed by Mr. Alexander and the permanent secretary on behalf of the government of Grenada. The agreement was made on the 21st day of August in the year 2023. The engagement of the contract commenced on April the 17th, 2023. Now, you know this government, I gave them the name, a retroactive government. For a period of 2 years, The government shall pay the contractor, which is Mr. Philip Alexander, $79,200 annually, which is 6,600 EC dollars per month. Mr. Alexander is also the chairman of the NAWASA Board of Directors and a director on the Planning Development Authority Board. Maybe others, but we can't tell because we don't know who they are, right? So he's eating a good food, and he decided he's going to share with his friend from Montserrat. They were at university together, as I understand it. Mr. Alexander has his private business doing valuations and land surveying and other things related to land, a blatant case of conflict of interest. So now he's sharing the wealth with a foreigner. Only thing this eater food thing is a joke. The position of directors of land was not announced. No bidding took place. The acting director was not informed, but he's given a job description which remains the same as when he was acting director of land. So now, the question remains, or the question is asked, what really is Mr. Kerritt's job description? Would a real NDC please stand up? Where is Uncle Tilly? Uncle Tilly, where are you?
We have to be independent. People, you're not just eat a food. You must have some values and standard too. So many people in the United States eating food. They got poison just now.
Uncle Tilly, there's a lot of people go eat poison there, you know. This eat a food mentality is the worst we've ever seen it in this nation. We talk NNP the bad. We talk about NNP and the nepotism and the victimization and the eat a food mentality. We didn't know what was coming. They say you know what you have, you don't know what's coming. That is a very true saying in comparison to what's going on now, right? Moving along, on the 21st of February 2024, contracts were sent out to some healthcare practitioners. So we're moving into contract work now and regularization. And you know, that's a pet peeve of mine because over the past day or so, I've seen at least 20 clips with members of the NDC. Now, they were then candidates and executive members and the leader of the NDC, among others. At least 20 clips with this whole contract thing. No contract, they say it in all forms, right? It's time and a half to play these clips for you. You would be amazed. Tessa said it. Gloria said it. Randall said it. Andel said it. Cornwall said it. Ron said it. Tevin said it. Well, we know that all the lovely niceties, the sexy ones that came from the leader then, Deacon Mitchell. I mean, it was just, they said it on the big stages. They said it on the corners, the street corners. We're going to get rid of contract. We're going to regularize all contract workers, Imani, everybody. What is a crime is a crime. Listen, let me get back on track. So these contracts were sent out to healthcare practitioners who were asked to sign them by midday the following day, which was the February 22nd, 2024. Most of them refused to sign. The contract was dated 1st of June, 2022. And according to the 4-page copy that I have in my possession, which I was told not to share with you. I'm sorry. You know, I normally share everything with you, but I was asked not to share this on screen with you. Okay, for good reasons. A 4-page document, and it's for 2 years, ending the 1st of June. Listen well, ending the 1st of June, 2024. You heard me correct. The contract has 3 months left. 3 months left on it. Okay. Now, before it expires, of course, what does it tell? That the former administration had done up this contract and obviously did not get around to getting it signed, either because of the elections in the air or probably because of all these announcements about contract being illegal, about getting rid of contract, making one public service, and regularizing all workers. No, if I was the NDP, I would have pulled back too. I wouldn't ask people to sign contracts days before the election. After weeks before that, you're hearing all these things about illegal contracts, and I'm a lawyer, and I can tell you that that is illegal. Okay, so maybe that's why they pulled back. However, this administration that took months, well, yeah, maybe a week, weeks, let me say weeks, preaching the gospel of no contract, regularization, turn around today, take up the contract that the NNP had there, didn't even bother to change the dates, my friends. Didn't even bother to change the dates and give the people to sign. Let's hear this clip. I mean, because I will share a few with you. Some I did already, but you know what? The more you hear them, the more you believe. And there are new followers, of course, endless new followers. And I thank you for coming on board. And I know that I get a little bit of prestige from the folks that are trying to fight me down. Now people are running in to see what it is she's saying that causing them to get so upset. Why are they hurting so badly? She matching their corn. People, let's hear this first clip from the Honorable Deacon Mitchell.
Following lock-in in step with the issue of the payment of the pensions is the issue of the regularization of the status of contract workers and Imani workers in Grenada. A government is supposed to lead by example. A government is supposed to uphold the laws and set the example. The rule of law applies as much to the government, most of the government, than its citizens. I have repeatedly said, if the task you are performing, if the job you are filling is a job that is always required by the entity that you work for, in this case, the government of Grenada, then there should be no issue of you being on a temporary or a fixed-term contract. Your employment should be permanent, your employment should be indefinite, and all of the benefits that comes with that should be attributed to your employment. And therefore, the National Democratic Congress commits to regularizing the status of contract workers who are working for the government and Imani workers who are working for the government within 12 months of assuming office. At my very first press conference on becoming political leader of the National Democratic Congress, I made it clear that under National Democratic Congress government, there will be one public service. And I am going to repeat that. There will be one public service. If you are working for and on behalf of the state of Grenada, and you are fulfilling a permanent job. There is no need to have you branded as an Imani worker, and there is no need for you to be placed on contract. You will be regularized and made part of the public service.
You will be regularized in only 12 months. He knew how to fix the problem. He said, by the stroke of a pen, and how a government has to fight for its citizens. How a government has to fight for its citizens. I'll come back to that phrase there. But let's hear him as he appeared on the Heartbeat program.
I'm happy that any loans, if affordable, is made available to citizens of Grenada. The issue is not whether that's not the issue. The issue is you've placed a large group of Grenadian workers on contract. You've placed them in a position where they are unable to borrow through the normal financial institutions by putting them in a position where they do not have sustainable or sustained employment. And what that means is that you've made them vulnerable. You've put them in a position where you now have to try and create a special lending scheme for them to borrow. And I'm saying even the special lending scheme that you've created, most of them are not going to qualify for the loan. And they're not going to qualify because you've already placed them in a position to disqualify them. Because they would not have acquired land. They would not have life insurance because they're working on 6 months or 12-month contracts. And if they're working, and if the jobs they are doing are permanent jobs, jobs that are normal customer requirements for the government, they should be indefinite employees or permanent employees. They should not be on contract work. And if they're not on contract work, they will be able to take part, like the rest of the persons who are on permanent jobs, in the normal banking and financial and the credit union systems in Grenada. And that is how you create wealth.
Absolutely.
That is how you sustain and raise your standard of living. That is how you're able to save money. That is how you acquire a home or acquire a piece of land, or you're able to start a small business on the side. But when you put people on contract work, and when there is no need to do so, then you are putting them in a vulnerable position, and you are doing so deliberately. And so the question you have to ask is, why are you doing so?
Yep.
And in my view, you are doing so because you want to have the ability to fire them at will. So you want to create job insecurity because you want to be able to manipulate them for your own ulterior reasons. Right? So let's make this clear. For those contract workers who are able to qualify for that GDP loan, I'm happy for them. But a significant number of them will not be able to qualify. And the question is, when they don't qualify, what happens to them? They remain on contract work. So what has to be addressed is the fact that the government has to end this contract work, absorb the employees because they are doing jobs that are normal, customary, and required. Let's take, for example, a cook in a school. If you have a school feeding program, that job is required indefinitely. There is no reason to put a cook on a contract work. And remember, when you put her on contract work, she has no pension. She has no chance of getting health insurance. She has no chance of buying life insurance because the incomes are very low. Right? And if you go to buy these things, they will say to you, well, we have no guarantee that you will have a job 6 months from now or 12 months from now. And so no one wants to deal with you from a financial perspective when you're in that position. And I'm saying the job of the citizens, of the government, is to fight for its citizens, to protect its citizens, to encourage its citizens to be independent, not dependent, not vulnerable. So that is the challenge we face. And I'm saying it is solvable by the stroke of a pen. And let me make this further point. It is actually illegal. The Employment Act clearly says that you cannot put someone on a fixed term contract, meaning these short term contracts, when the position they are filling is an indefinite one. So the government itself is breaking the law. The government itself is being lawless. So I'm saying in those circumstances, they should in fact end the contract work, regularize the status of their employees, and any other incentives that should be offered to them to make up for the period that they've been on contract jobs, in fact, should be given to them.
Yeah, you have a red passport now, and you're eating a food too. So you take any Yeah. Once he is saying all of this, he wasn't yet the prime minister. He became prime minister. And all of that went out the window. You see, he didn't consult. He didn't take the time to find out. He just have nice big talk. And when I saw all those clips yesterday, I came to the conclusion that that is what the NDC won the elections on: pension and regularization, right? And I wouldn't fault the workers for doing that. I wouldn't fault them for doing that. Who doesn't want betterment, right? But we didn't listen to the then prime minister. We didn't listen to who was in the kitchen and feeling the heat at the time. So he just decided he's going to say all these nice things. And we going to catch on and latch on, which we did. And they won. And now that they've won, they've come to realize that it ain't just easy. So. But when I hear the leader there, the NDC leader there, speaking of fighting for the people, speaking of encouraging people to be independent and not dependent, I have to slip in here these clips.
The Planning and Development Authority, alongside various stakeholders, initiated its first operation as part of its demolition drive along the St. Paul's Main Road near Laborie St. George on Wednesday. A food truck flagged for illegal parking along the main road, including public health violations, was scheduled for removal on Wednesday after a 14-day notice. However, mere hours before the removal, the owner relocated the truck to private property across the road near the original location. Our news team spoke with the owner, who is adamant that he has been compliant with the request by the authorities to have the truck removed.
We were requested to move from on Krong lands, which we did. We sought permission to have the thing put in private property, which we did. And now they are saying that we have to move because if somebody give you permission to rest something, to secure it in your property, understanding the investment, why would you want to give it to them? They have not spoken to any one of us. All Elcock asked me is if that is where we intend to leave it, and I said to him, no. As a matter of fact, one of the workers here just had a young baby. We have 5 different persons earning a living from this. 5 different persons earning a living from this, including a young lady who comes and clean. So the fact of the matter is this, that it is disheartening, extremely disheartening, to understand that you have been told to move something from somewhere, you abide by that. And now you have secured it on private property for its safekeeping, and someone will come and tell you without any justifiable reason that it have to move.
Chief Administrative Officer at the Planning Development Authority, Janice Lessie, reaffirmed the agency's commitment to the demolition drive.
This drive continues for as long as it have to. We're starting in the south and some areas of St. David. We've earmarked some places, but we give people final notices. So we never just show up and say we're breaking today. You will be given a final notice telling you the date and time, as in this case, that the demolition will continue. And we have police security, we have all of that. So once you get that letter, believe you me, in the past, people have ignored, they saw it as bluffing and stuff like that, but we are serious.
Amidst threats of legal action from the food truck owner, MTV News learned that the vehicle would be impounded at a secure location until all necessary requirements are met.
Let us be clear. I am not in favor of lawlessness. I agree that there's just too many of those food things, whatever, just chuck a block and run on the side of the road throughout the island. But it's not what you do, it's how you do it. And all these people there, they're not doing it just for so. That's their way of life. That's called survival for them. That's what's feeding them and their family. That's what's sending their kids to school. That's what putting clothes on their back and a shelter over their head. So we have to fight for our citizens, and we have to encourage them to be dependent, independent, and not dependent. Let me just say here that the Honorable Deacon Mitchell is the line minister for the Planning Authority. We'll take a quick break and come right back.
Thank you for tuning in to Simon Says. To ensure that you never miss an episode, click subscribe and make sure to turn on the notifications by clicking on the notification bell icon. See you at the next episode.
Welcome back. As we continue, further to that, all that he said there, we have more of the Honorable Prime Minister.
When you are placed on 3 months contract, 6 months contract, 12 months contract, it is unlawful. It is illegal. And if it is going to take another High Court judgment to say that the government of Grenada cannot treat its own citizens that way by breaking the law, then so be it.
Let's hear one of his disciples.
An NDC government will put an end to contract workers in the public service as soon as it takes office. There is no need for a parallel public service in Grenada. All workers will be given permanent status.
No need for a parallel public service. But the Prime Minister and leader of the New National Party at the time had his reservations and gave his warning. Listen well.
Regarding the issue of payment of state pensions, unless we manage the process well and set out a viable roadmap under which the state could meet its obligations, it can completely derail the economy, sink thousands into dire poverty, and set us back many years and cripple the future development plans. That must not happen under our watch. We can only have the best outcome, however, my friends, by having the most honest conversations. And that must include all stakeholders being engaged. Because this is not about just the public workers. It's about all the citizens of Grenada, Carriacou, and Petit Martinique. The government obviously must lead on this matter. They have no choice. But it puts a reasonable final solution in doubt unless we purposely engage all stakeholders.
And then there was this.
But let's be straight. We're going to be straight with the nation. Contract work and pension reform must go together. Because we commit to pay the retroactive pension, and we are doing so. We understand the import of the ruling of the court. But so as not to do severe damage, perhaps even irreparable damage to our economy in the long run, we must work out a pension plan going forward that's sustainable. Because as it stands now, when people retire, they are entitled to NIS, that's public servants I mean, they are entitled to NIS plus government pension, and government pension is a non-contributory pension, which means the government alone pays everything into the pension fund, plus under the NIS law, the government pays 6% into the NIS, into the National Insurance Fund.
Okay, let's be straight. Let's be straight with the people. All of us, we need to be straight with the people and tell them that all that we were saying on the campaign trail can't happen as we said it would. Can't happen as we said it would. Dr. Mitchell in the Parliament further reiterated the effects and how this level of showing up will affect us. He was still then the Prime Minister of Grenada.
You have calls for increment increases that are owed, and salary increases that are owed, and more increases here, and then you have pension, this and so on. I make it very clear. The present situation cannot be compared to 1989. It cannot be. In fact, this government has never sold national asset to meet debts. We have never done it. Astute management of the economy has been a fundamental basis upon which this government has existed. And a member, when he was part of it, would have been espousing the praises of the government for having done this. So there's no issue of sales. The governments that have done it, past governments, and the one that are talking now, they have solutions for everybody's problems. They're going to now make everybody permanent in the public service and the private sector. They're going to force the private sector to hire people permanently, and they're going to find the money to give the private sector to pay. And they have solution. They're now going to have serious wage increases for all the workers, while when they were in their own profession, they did everything to prevent the workers from getting a basic increase, Mr. Speaker. But all of a sudden they come from manna drop from heaven. They're now savior for every single solution in the country. Pie in the sky, you know. As someone said, they're simply not ready for prime time, Mr. Speaker. They're not ready for this. Because, as the Minister of Labor alluded to this, it alluded to the question of wage increases. It's not a thing where you just make irresponsible statements. It might sound popular to some persons, and if I'm earning wages, it sounds popular to me. But you have a wage tripartite, legal responsive act that governs how these things are done, because it's a tripartite relationship, government, trade unions, and the private sector. That's the only way it has to be done. Because if you make a decision and that happens to satisfy one element of the tripartite grouping, and it causes major disruption in the private sector operation, and they start laying off workers, then where are we? So it is nice to say it, and some people might just go in a ballot box and vote because they expect to get massive increases because somebody promised them that. But it does not work. And we all know when promises like that were made in the sky before, pie in the sky type promises, what happened was disappointment when the election was over. Because when Imani was expecting to get massive increase, they all sent home. They all sent home. But the same persons or the same organization today are telling us that they can be doing this, and they have everything. Yes, man, yes, man, yes, man. It does not work. So,
yep, it's already started happening. Dr. Mitchell, in the private sector, persons are being sent home. There's not just chaos in the private sector, here in the public sector as well. There are lots of workers who are yet to receive their increase in their minimum wage. The same cooks that the Prime Minister now talk about, they're permanent cooks. They're not contract cooks. They are permanent and they are yet to receive their raise. Let's hear what the now Prime Minister Deacon Mitchell has to say when it comes to contract work and bloating of the public sector.
The regularization is focused on the several hundreds, if not thousands, of other persons who do not have those things. And the point that I think P.S. Marshall was making is that in order to treat with that, we simply cannot take all of them and make them established public servants for the simple reason that it will bankrupt the government. It will not be sustainable. So the discussion, the partnership, the compromise has to essentially be how we improve the terms and conditions of these persons' employment as close as possible to that of established workers in a manner that is sustainable. And that involves a number of things. How we agree on a pension formula for them, for example, how we agree on the vacation, etc., etc., etc.
Was it me that say I'm going to regularize all contract workers? Or you? Who said that? Now that the Prime Minister had to come and tell you all that he simply cannot regularize all workers. Who said that? I swear. I like how he just come back, it's like, what the hell y'all trying to say? We can't do that, Retroactive government it is. And, when you see things like that, it makes you wonder. And then you're not surprised as to where we are today with a cabinet of ministers, a government that are stuck like rainstorm. They're not go up or down. We just don't know what's going on. We haven't seen, and sometimes I hear, oh, the ministers ain't doing nothing. All of them, show me what Prime Minister Deacon Mitchell has done effectively, efficiently in any one of his ministries. We're not talking about building bathroom and toilet in Bela. We're talking about in the Ministry of Infrastructure and all the other ones that comes under his name. Tell me, show me what he has done. When we blaming all the other ministers, show me what he has done. It's collectively, they are incompetent and inept and unable to govern this country and should step aside or go back to the people and ask them for another mandate with some other reasons why we should vote for them. I'm certain that most of you remember the branch held for media workers under the auspices of the Prime Minister Deacon Mitchell on Thursday, December the 28th, 2023 at the Grenada Yacht Club. Huge events, media workers turn out in their numbers and turn up in their numbers, great numbers. I myself was surprised to see them. I didn't know we had all these media workers on either. To literally, and this is not figurative time, figuratively this time, to literally eat a food and socialize with colleagues and members of the cabinet. Or was it just to eat the food and to socialize with the cabinet of Grenada? Because there was the media awards and the hall was empty. Very few media workers turned out to the MWA Media Award. If you look, you see them. Look how they were enjoying themselves at that event. Then just a few days later, they were barred from viewing the reshuffling. We all remember that. The reshuffle, the swearing in of the ministers, taking their oath for new offices. Here's a news report on the matter from WPG 10 News.
A new cabinet has been sworn in Grenada, but at this hour, the people of the country do not know who their new ministers are. We have more in this report.
In an unprecedented development, the Deacon Mitchell administration barred the media from covering the event Thursday morning. One of our cameramen turned up for the ceremony and was told by security that they had instructions not to let independent media in. The government's press secretary, in a WhatsApp message to a colleague of ours, said that the list of cabinet appointees will be made known Friday. While a technical operative of the Government Information Service filmed the event, senior executives took charge of the recording, and they were under strict instructions about dissemination. Who the new ministers are and where they are assigned remains, at this hour, officially a state secret.
Okay. The Media Association, MWAG, had put out a statement in protest of the treatment meted out to the media by the government. Here is the first vice president of the Media Association in a GBN News clip.
Well, certainly it is a shocking development what has happened there. This is the first major reshuffle of this new administration, reorganizing of the cabinet. There's also the introduction of at least 2 new people, if the information that we've got through the grapevine is accurate, because we are yet to hear anything. It's been hours since the reshuffle was formalized with the Governor General, and we are yet to hear anything on it. And it's a major development. At least 1 new person, Delma Thomas, I have been able to confirm, is coming into the cabinet. And the process of the appointment, while that is the responsibility of the Governor General, and the process of it demands that every minister must take an oath, and it's also a public affair. So it's one of the positions they have taken is that, well, it's just a reassignment and that people don't have to be sworn in. But I'm sorry, that's not how it works here. How it works is that you must take an oath for this new assignment. And the government chose to leave the media out of this. And not only that, when media people attempted to cover it, they were informed by security, police officers, that, sorry, only GIS is allowed to come in to cover this. Public, the people's government making changes and saying that the media, which speaks to the public, not allowed. That is very concerning, and it is the continuation of a trend that we have seen. There are a number of areas of deep concern for us with this administration, the access to information and things like that. We believe that the government needs to be a bit more straightforward and above board in helping to preserve and to protect the freedom of the press.
3, 2, 1. Compliments GBN News. In more recent times, on February 18th, 2024, the Media Workers Association, MWA, held their 2024 award ceremony. A very poorly attended ceremony, I must add. And in my mind, I was wondering, where are all the ones that attended the brunch hosted by the Prime Minister on Thursday, the 28th December 2023? Nonetheless, the show went on, and at the end, the first vice president was given the task of moving the vote of thanks. Let's hear her.
Now I come to a situation that we are facing now, and I said to the president that I would use the period of the closing remarks. I suppose it's supposed to thank people and so on, but I want to talk about what is happening now with the administration in power. It's probably going to upset people. Our members a lot of them are young, some are untrained. We talked about training, we're trying to work on that, we recognize ourselves, we're trying to fix that. But I feel like there is this attempt right now to sideline the media, that social media has become the new means of disseminating and speaking to the people. That is unacceptable. The media is an important part of democracy. It's a critical part of democracy. Without a strong media, a media that is recognized and respected, the country is going to have problems. So those who are seeking to undermine the media and its place in this democratic nation need to take a little look and see what's going on. You know, I requested an interview from the Prime Minister of the country, the Honorable Dickon Mitchell, quite some time now, 3 or 4 months. I got a message recently saying, unless you give us the questions in advance, you will not be allowed to interview the Prime Minister. I won't be interviewing the Prime Minister. Now, young journalists may think that it's quite okay to give your questions in advance to people. It is not. Linda and I don't always see eye to eye, but on that I know we will. She's one of the veteran members. It is not okay to give your questions in advance. And I want to appeal to the young journalist. Don't let anybody say to you that in exchange for an interview, you must tell me what you want to ask in advance. You provide broad areas. I want to talk about governance. I want to talk about this or that. But you do not give your questions to anyone, because you might as well ask the press secretary, for instance, to do the interview and send you a tape. It makes no sense. And I consider that to be a serious attack on press freedom, and I will say so here and now, that I'm being denied an interview with the Prime Minister. I've had about 5 or 6 with him before. Never had that to face that situation. Just coming from Tortola, where I interviewed the Premier of the BVI, Dr. Natalia Weekly, he didn't ask me for questions. In fact, he didn't even ask me for broad areas. He just smiled and said, I know the hot topics. Other prime ministers that I've interviewed, I've never had that request. And I want to make an appeal to the Prime Minister now, if he has set that policy, that he needs to reverse it. And if someone under him, who doesn't understand their role, has decided to do that, then they may want to not create that sort of difficulty for the Prime Minister and accept that we won't give you questions.
Okay. Now, of course, the utterances did not go down well with the lovers of the Prime Minister. And it is clear this whole new administration saga is not about NDC, it's not about country, it's about Deacon Mitchell. Someone they don't know and probably will never know. Someone most of them never saw before October 2021, when he became leader of the NDC. And there are those who know and understand that Deacon Mitchell is not the NDC and will never be one. So after Ms. Ferrier was rocked like a baby, if you look at the photo there, rocked like a baby on screen in the arms of Kem Jones, the baby got thrown out with the bath water right after that. Here is what he had to say.
Do not be fooled by some in the media who is out there making all kinds of allegations that they need to submit questions before they interview the Prime Minister, and they've been in this media business for 20-something years, and they will not subject themselves to that. Well, hello. The Prime Minister doesn't have to be interviewed by them. Some of these people believe that they're smart, you know. The Prime Minister doesn't have to be interviewed by Calistro Faria. No. The Prime Minister has GIS there, and they have a regular press conference where they talk about what's happening in Grenada. Do you know this whole issue about questions being submitted and so on? Calistro Faria wanted an exclusive interview with the Prime Minister. And because she didn't get that the way she wanted it, then she went on this platform at this media awards that was poorly attended by media workers and started giving people this false idea that, you know, all media workers are asked to submit questions, because that is what I got from it when I heard it, right? This kind of false idea. that all media workers have to submit their questions before they go to. No, that's not the case. This woman wanted an exclusive interview. So she has been working on that for a while. Because, you know, she wants to be seen and heard and as though she's important in this scheme of things, right? And it's not just Callistra doing all of this. Huh? Hamlet Mack is behind it, in my belief. Because the minute time they don't get what they want, they believe they could bulldoze the system. That is why this guy, during the NNP time, choked this woman down, you know. I mean, I'm not happy with it, but sometimes you start thinking based on how many of them are acting and doing certain stuff that maybe, just maybe, their behavior prompted that kind of reaction. Because it comes across as though if she ain't get it, then she'll just, you know, come on. There are hunting journalists, reporters, and people in this country that the Prime Minister or most Honorable Deacon Mitchell can sit and be interviewed by. And it's up to him. It's not up to her. You don't call the shots around here. Who do you think you are? You don't call the shots around here. It is simple like that. So then these people go out there and give you that impression that this thing is across the board and all journalists, they have to report and send their questions in, and it's just a big joke. A big joke. But what we realize is that they are becoming more and more irrelevant because of social media. And they want to keep their relevance by riding on our beloved Prime Minister's popularity. I don't think that they like the Prime Minister, you know. I don't think that they want good for the Prime Minister and for the NDC administration, you know. Don't believe so. Most of the reporters in Grenada, they like controversy, they like bacchanal, they like melee, they like gossip, they like tebe. That is what they like. They like picong. They like drama, they like sensationalism.
You see, if you're not a supporter of the ruling party, and if you support but not blindly, and you have reasons to criticize, hate is spewed at you with vengeance from the NDC supporters and their members. One guy, hatred and lies, trying to cover up the mistakes. But there are too many, too huge to cover. You didn't just speak about her being pushed and shoved down. You didn't just speak about that because you now think it's okay because she spoke out against the Prime Minister. This is so sad. And to think this guy is being endorsed by the Prime Minister. That's why he have tongue. He gone and speaking all nice things about this individual of hate, of divide. The bricks have started to fall. It's going to be an interesting 2024. Put on your hard hats, people, and buckle up. The fourth estate is a term that is usually referred to as the press or the media that comprises of journalists, photographers, radio announcers, television broadcasters, and whoever that is responsible for the political and societal power they wield out mainstream media. The hallmark of the fourth estate is that it scrutinizes the action of public officials and political institutions in the interest of public serving as a watchdog that holds the other three estates accountable for their actions, and the other three being the legislation, the executive, and the judiciary. In the words of Sir William Blackstone, the liberty of the press is indeed essential to the nature of a free state. Every free man has an undoubted right to what sentiments he pleases before the public. To forbid this is to destroy the freedom of press. Aren't we supposed to be living in a democratic state? Democracy is the natural outgrowth of the human interaction if people were to communicate freely with one another. The real purpose of democracy is human freedom. Therefore, freedom of expression and freedom of the press is a commodity that should not be compromised. A word to this administration. Folks, for those of you who've been sending questions and issues that you want us to investigate and bring to the public, we are doing so. We are getting there. And so we would bring them in different episodes as we get them. This is a wrap on today's episode of Simon Says. I know the time comes so quickly. Thanking you for joining us again on another episode of Simon Says. Thank you for conversing with me this morning, keeping them honest. Thank you for joining Simon Says, where facts come first. See you next week, same time, same place, for another episode of Simon Says. Have a great week. Bye.
Thank you for tuning in to Simon Says. To ensure that you never miss an episode, click subscribe and make sure to turn on the notifications by clicking on the notification bell icon. See you at the next episode.